Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to my Fallout 4 mini-series of Vault 83, The Librarian, where today we are of course still here in the Kottabos Library, and yeah, we're here for just one more episode, and then that will be it. We will move on for a Monday's episode to a new mod, which I've already got planned out, so hopefully it should prove to be entertaining for you guys. But yeah, I did ask you, of course, in the comments on the previous episode if you all wanted to hear more of these stories. And at least last I read the comments, it seemed kind of 50-50-ish. And with that 50-ish being a yes, and the fact that, you know what, I actually would like to read at least one more of these, just to get a bit more of a sense of the variety of things we have here, I figured, what the heck, let's do one more story, and then we'll be done. So if you guys do want to check out any of the others, you will of course have to go and download the mod for yourself, which, hey, I'd recommend you go and do anyways, because it is a fun little mod, and who knows, perhaps The Cruise, chapters 1 through 4, would be right up your alley. But for today, we are going to be reading The Demon Grin, as it speaks to me. I wish to know about the Demon Grin. And plus, after a Ghost in Retail, which wasn't half bad of a story, it was actually pretty entertaining there, I would like to go from Ghost to Demon. So let us grab that holotape and see what we got here. And this one, I just kind of flipped through the pages real quick. It's a little bit shorter, so it shouldn't be too long of an episode today. So let us start The Demon Grin by Narrate. I was 17 years old and my parents had gone to a Christmas party at their friend's house about an hour away for the night. I could have went, but I knew it would just be a bunch of people a lot older than me, drinking alcohol and having conversations that wouldn't interest me the whole night, so I just decided to stay back at home and look after the house while they were gone. It was a winter night, so it got dark at around 6 p.m. They had left for the party at around 7, give or take. I had the house to myself and was excited to just chill out and watch some movies and play some video games all night with no disturbances. I went into the living room and played video games for about an hour. I was pretty cold, so I decided to turn on the heating. The switches for our heating are in the basement. Our basement is more like an extra room. We have a pool table down there, 2 sofas, and a pretty decent TV. The basement was noticeably extra cold for some reason. When I switched on the lights, the first thing I noticed was the balls on the pool table were all over the place, like someone was in the middle of a game, which I found strange since I just finished a game of pool with my dad like 20 minutes before my parents left, and I made sure to put all the balls into the triangle thing before leaving the basement. Although I found it strange, I just thought my dad must have went back down and had a bit of practice on his own before they left, since I sort of humiliated him in the game anyways. It seemed unlikely, but it was the best explanation I could come up with in my head. I had a bit of OCD when it came to the pool table. I always had to leave the balls in the triangle at the end of every game, or I felt like I would have bad luck for the rest of the day. Weird, I know, but anyways, I went over and put all the pool balls back into the triangle before going to turn the heating on. As I was walking back up the stairs, I turned the lights off, and as soon as I did, I heard the sound of a cue falling off the rack. I switched the light back on to see, and there was nothing. The cues were still on the rack, and everything looked to be in place. I was a bit spooked out at this point, but I quickly forgot about it when I went back upstairs and finished the game I was playing. After the game, I decided to watch some TV. I remember I was watching some documentary. I can't quite remember what it was about, but I was pretty enthralled in it at the time. About 15 minutes into watching it, the screen started to go fuzzy. I figured it was due to the weather outside since it was pretty windy. I turned it off and on again, and it seemed to work fine. Well, it only worked fine for about another 2 minutes before it done it again, and this time it was followed up by the channels suddenly changing on their own. Sounds like it got a bad Roku or something there, frankly. I had the remote in my hand, so there was no way I was accidentally sitting on the remote and changing it myself. It was changing channels, rather, for about a minute before it stopped on this very strange one. It was a girl standing with her back to the screen in a pitch-black room, but she was still clearly visible. I could only see the back of her. She had light blonde hair, about average length, and was wearing this brown robe with a black belt in the midsection. She had no shoes or socks on and could see a massive scar going all the way up the back of her leg, up through the robe. I don't know why, but I couldn't stop looking at her, and I felt myself in a sort of trance. She was completely still at first, and then she started to sway side to side very slightly. The swaying started to get more and more intense. She kept swaying further and further to each side until it looked almost inhuman and unnatural. It was really creepy, and I felt this extreme sense of hopelessness and fear inside me, yet I still couldn't look away or even move for that matter. The swaying started to slow down gradually until she eventually stopped. That's when her head started to slowly turn around without her body moving. It took around 10 seconds for her head to completely turn 180 degrees, and every second it took, I felt more and more terrified. I could eventually see her full face. Her eyes were pitch black, and she had no eyelashes or eyebrows. Her skin was a light, washed-out shade of gray, but that was nothing compared to the grin on her face. It was the most sinister grin you could ever imagine. A smile so large it went from ear to ear, revealing a toothless mouth and cracked, bloody lips. I felt my heart pounding like I was about to go into cardiac arrest, and yet I still couldn't move or take my eyes off the screen. She started to walk closer to the screen until her face, with all that evil smile, took up the whole screen. Her face froze and didn't twitch or move one bit, and that's when I heard it. A loud, demonic scream came from my basement. It sounded like a possessed woman giving her last cry before succumbing to the demon inside of her. The scream shook me out of my trance. I quickly got up and ran to the front door, only to find that it wasn't there anymore. My house was exactly the same. All forms of escape were gone. It was just concrete wall where my windows, front and back doors were. The only doors in the house was to the other rooms inside the house. I looked around in panic, trying to find some way to get out of this hell. As I was looking around, I heard footsteps coming up the basement stairs. Instinctively, I ran over to close the basement door to stop whatever was coming up. Just as I got to the door and grabbed the handle, it blew off its hinges backwards, back down the stairs, pulling me along with it. I crashed at the bottom of the stairs. It was pitch black and I couldn't see anything. I had my phone in my pocket and I quickly pulled it out and used the flashlight app. I moved the light around me to see if I was seriously injured or if there was any blood. That's when I noticed the door was gone. I had landed on the floor with the door, yet it had disappeared. I had my light back up the stairs only to see the door still intact and closed shut. I limped back up the stairs and tried to open the door only to realize it was locked. I tried breaking it down, but to no avail. I sat on the top of the stairs, almost paralyzed in fear. I knew I had to go back down to try and find something to break open the door with. I gathered whatever courage I had left in me and slowly made my way back down. As I reached the bottom, I heard a laugh coming from where I was at the top of the staircase. It sounded like the same voice of the scream I had heard earlier. I glanced my flashlight at it and saw the same girl from the TV screen staring down at me. This time her smile seemed bigger, if that was even possible. I ran over to the sofa and hid behind it. She then spoke to me, saying, "You're coming to hell with me when I murder you." The tone of her voice was even more terrifying than the words she had spoken. It's hard to explain, but the tone literally felt like it was piercing my soul and destroying any hope I had left. After that, it went silent. I dialed my mom's number and tried to call it, even though I knew I had no minutes left to call her. As I was doing this, my phone started to ring. It was my mom. It was like she knew I was trying to reach her. I quickly answered it and tried to explain to her what was happening in whatever way I could, but all that came out of my mouth was a bunch of panic and mumbling. I did get a few words in there, like demon girl and help. She didn't say anything for a good 20 seconds. When I calmed down a bit, I shouted into phone, "Mom, are you there?" That's when I got a reply, but not the reply I wanted. It was a voice that sounded like my mom's, but with a demonic undertone. It said, "Sweetie, don't you know you're going to die tonight and your soul will rot in hell forever?" I was in utter shock and just mumbled back the word, "What?" And that's when she started laughing hysterically, as if she had just heard the funniest joke ever. I knew it was the demon messing with me and hung up immediately. I knew I needed to get out of this house, and fast. I got up and looked around for anything I could use to open that damn door. As I was looking around with my flashlight, I saw the demon girl just standing in the corner near the bottom of the stairs, with that same sinister smile on her face. Almost like she was letting me find a way out. I finally found a hammer. Not one of those big sledgehammers, but just a little small hammer used for nails. She was almost blocking my path to the stairs that led to the door. I stood there in a sort of stare-off with this demon. I say stare-off, but basically I was just standing there trembling like I was freezing to death, scared to make any sort of eye contact with it. With a burst of courage, I started to limp towards the stairs and to the door. I started hitting the door as hard as I could with the small hammer, only making small little holes. I kept going, and then I heard her walking up the stairs behind me. I didn't turn around. I just kept smashing the door with all my might. She started laughing, louder and louder, and then her laughter turned to screams. She then let out one massive scream and pulled my shirt, throwing me back down the stairs. I paused for a second, almost deciding to just give in to my fear and just lay there and die. But something in me told me to get up and go straight back to that door, which I did. I ran back to it and started the process again. With each swing of the hammer, her screams grew louder, almost as if it was her I was hitting and not the door. Then the hammer flung out of my hands and back down into the basement. I was going to go back down and get it until I saw her standing down there. I somehow knew that if I went back down, I wouldn't be coming back again. I had made a pretty big hole in the door, but not enough to fit through, so I had to use my own body to make the hole big enough. I slammed into it multiple times, punched at it, pulled at it, all the while getting bits of wood stuck in my hands and arms and cuts all over my body. I eventually managed to squeeze through. When I got out, I noticed my front door and windows were back. I limped towards the door, covered in blood, leg broken, but soul still intact. I opened the front door and heard one last scream from the demon girl before I fell outside onto my front porch. I got back up and over to my neighbor's house, where I lied and told them there was an intruder in my house who attacked me. I knew if I told them the real story, there would be a chance they would think I was crazy. The police and ambulance came, and I was brought to the hospital. My parents arrived there only 5 minutes after I got to the hospital, which was strange since they were an hour away and it was only 10 minutes to the hospital from my house. I told them what happened and that they couldn't go back to that house. They believed me straight away, and I asked them why they didn't even question me. And that's when my mom looked at me with this worried, concerned look on her face. Apparently, she got a call from my number around an hour ago, and when she answered it, she heard someone who sounded like me, but with an evil undertone. She told me it said to her, "I'm going to hell today. You should come back and join me, Mom." The end. Alright, not bad. Not bad at all. Few parts that were a bit meh, but overall a decent little demon story there. I like it. I like it. So yeah, that was The Demon Grin by Nar 8. Another fun little story. So yeah, out of the 2 of the many here that we did try, I like both. Again, few flaws in the story, but not overall, not too bad at all. So that is going to be it for Vault 83, The Librarian. If you would like to check this mod out for yourself, which I would definitely suggest you do, you can check out the link in the description. It's been in all of the videos. But that is gonna be it, folks. A fun little mod with a very weird story, and apparently, from the looks of all the titles on these things, a lot of great little horror stories up here for you to read. But yeah, that's gonna be it, so I hope you have enjoyed, and that you do come back for the next series we do. But until then, thank you for watching, my friends, and as always, Demon Girl. Later, folks!